Do you have any funny moments behind the wheel of a Trans Am car?
Every time I got behind one. Yeah, I mean, Trans Am was a great series. I mean, people don't realize the camaraderie in sports that happens. Although, when you're on the track in a very competitive environment, you have a hard time keeping from, you killing each other. And either when you're in it long enough, like any sport, you go from being, disrespected to understood to at some point hopefully being respected, and you do that by virtue of how you conduct yourself and how you race and how competitive you are over time. Some of the battles we had were epic. I mean, Trans Am had fantastic battles. I mean, Boris and I had incredible battles. Paul Gentilozzi and I went at it for years. I think there was no love lost in the early years. I mean, we loved to get after each other, and we seemed to find each other every weekend, and every weekend there was carnage and corners torn off of cars, and that's what we did, and we loved it. And after all those years, it took. I think I was runner-up in Trans Am 4 times. So the joke was I was the perpetual bridesmaid of Trans Am, and I finally got myself a championship going through all the ups and downs, and it was one of the most rewarding things in my life.
That's awesome, man. Now talk about the 2005 Cup race at Sonoma.
Well, the opportunities to get in the Cup car. There's not many people in this country that can get in a Cup car and drive one effectively. And it was also more challenging back then because the cars were a little bit more rudimentary. They're very heavy, very hard to stop. They want to go like hell. And they're a handful to drive. And people don't really understand how hard a Cup car in that time was to drive. And there's phenomenal drivers. They're all great drivers. But road racers had a bit of an edge because they had the experience of what happens in a car over time. So we had that advantage. We were able to, get ourselves into cars and get ourselves into situations which led us to those opportunities to even get in one. That was, and then actually qualify. So to be able to do that was fantastic. And that was a good finish at Sonoma, and it wasn't one of my most brilliant drives, but to be in a Cup car with that caliber of drivers and mix it up, because in those races you get after every second of every lap. It was quite an experience.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say that those horses behind you, the minute you said it wasn't one of your best drives, they probably walked away thinking, come on, don't be hard on yourself.
They're over me.
All right. So the term road course ringers, that whole group that kind of comes and runs the road courses, do y'all have a little bit of a camaraderie with those guys because y'all kind of come up the same way and then come to the Cup Series for the road courses and stuff like that?
Absolutely. I mean, because we, Trans Am played a funny role. We drove a lot with the IndyCar series, which was a lot of fun, and we got to be very friendly with the Ganassis and the Penske's of the world, who were great friends of us, and we were a support series to some great racing as well. So the talent pool there was phenomenal. The racers were phenomenal. So we really got the best of all worlds because we weren't limited to open wheel experience or relationships. We had closed wheel relationships. We had sports car relationships, road course racing and street racing. The Long Beach Grand Prix, the Minneapolis Grand Prix, the Dallas Grand Prix of the world. There wasn't many people that actually understood those races either. They were fantastic crowds and still are somewhat today. There's a Chicago Cup race. I would love to have run that one.
That's what I was going to bring up. I was just going to bring up what your thoughts were on the Chicago Cup race the last couple of years.
Well, there's some of the pilots of those guys. You can tell the really multi-talented drivers these days, because there was a point to where you could drive by a Cup driver because they just didn't have the experience or the passion for road courses. They were oval racers that are really good at it. It wasn't my discipline because I tried several of them. But there's definitely an expertise you get, and so you have the mental advantage. You have some of the experience. The experience I raced in Montreal, the first rain race that NASCAR ever had, which was quite an experience.
So yeah, speaking of the camaraderie you brought up about road courses, Brian, I noticed when watching replays of that Sonoma race in 2005 that you had run as high as like third place, and I think you were behind Ron Fellows at one point, and then you shuffled back a bit as pit strategies happened, and then you finished 10th with like a bent hood or something, and that was like the best finish you got. Is that right?
Yeah, in Cup, yeah, it was one of those deals where we were outgunned in a lot of ways. And what people don't realize about car racing is it is a team sport, very much so. And when you have a team, including your pit crew, because we knew we weren't going to have a good pit crew. We hired them that weekend from the Winston West Series. At the time, it was the Winston West Series. So we basically picked up crew members on the fly. Never worked with them, never trained with them, never did a pit stop with them. I actually hit one of my guys, not very hard, but I hit one of my guys just because we didn't have the experience together. So we knew that was going to be one of our fundamental challenges, was getting through a pit stop. And the miraculous part about it is we weren't the fastest car on the track, but we focused. What I love to call from one of my good buddies was reverse engineering. Trying to figure out how to end up good at the end by everything that happens in the middle. And so we went through the whole process of figuring out that we didn't have the best, and that was the best part that happened. We didn't have the best tools, parts, and equipment, but we may have had one of the better strategies. So a top 10 finish was very, very good for what we had to work with.
That's understandable. And did you think after that race that it was going to make a difference in you getting a good NASCAR ride for the more road races, or did you think it was a one-time deal?
Well, the old saying in racing, you're as good as your last race. And racing brings more to the table. I mean, I always say, if you want to be a good racer, you have to be a good businessman. You have to be, you have to be, a good engineer to a certain degree. You have to come to the party with a little bit more than a helmet. And so, you try to add value to the team, the effort, either from a marketing perspective, parts, pieces, knowledge, because you always bring something. You always bring something to the table. And when we came for road races, we would bring knowledge about braking and other things that they didn't possess. One of the reasons we struggled so much in Montreal was the actual visibility problem. They didn't realize, like we did after all the years, that at 160 miles an hour, your windshield wiper doesn't touch the windshield. The wind picks it up off the windshield, so you've lost visibility. And also, those cars were pretty rudimentary. Water coming up in on the engine and creating steam in the windows. You couldn't see out the windows. And so, we brought some of the technology to combat those challenges because we faced them in sports car racing. We ran a Daytona 24 hours several times. I won it in 2000. I think in 2000 with Scott Pruitt and Paul Gentilozzi. And the issue with winning the 24 hours is, one, having a fast car, but two, being able to solve every problem that comes at you in the middle of the night. Because I don't know, 24 hours where you didn't see all weather conditions, from sunshine to rain to you name it, hot, cold. You get it all. So those were interesting as well. So you got to bring more to the team, and that's super, super important. So yeah, your rides do, and the credibility too. Your credibility when you drive a Cup car goes up. Your stock goes up with that too.
Did Richard Childress say something after your top 10 that was good? Like, did he wish you a good job and all that?
Yeah, Richard was fantastic to work with. I mean, the whole Childress team. And we took one of their ex crew chiefs, a guy by the name of Bobby Leslie, and you guys still got me?
Yeah.
Okay, a guy by the name of Bobby Leslie, and we took an old hauler, a handful of parts, and the engine builder built us an engine, and we simply went out and beat all the Childress cars. We were the top Childress car that weekend. So as pleasant as he was in that deal, I don't believe that his Monday morning meeting was great with his team, that a privateer comes in using his spare parts, his spare engine, with no crew, and beats the entire Childress team. I don't think they were too happy about that.